Hi, my name is Katy, and I would like to share with you some information and research that I have done on public libraries and our children in our community. As you know, we do not have a public library in our community and have not had one for over 6 years now. And by not having that public library, our community we're missing out on some things, specifically our children. And so I wanted to share a picture with you that I found about what the purpose of libraries are and how they can impact our community. So if you look here, you can see that we have the renovated branch library, and often people think, why do we even need libraries anymore? But if you notice, we have several things happening that can happen. An unemployed man using the internet can use the internet to connect to apply for jobs. A senior citizen can use the reference librarian to help them with genealogy research. A family can work to save money by borrowing books and DVDs instead of buying them, and have greater resources to use by using the library. And then teens at school might even be attending an after-school program instead of getting into trouble. And then, of course, we have kids that can sign up for summer reading programs or programs that happen throughout the entire year. And so there are lots of things that can take place at a library that can have positive impacts on our community. But I want us to focus on the need for our library. Why do we need a public library in our community? And so there's some things that I focused on in my research that I'd like to share with you. First, our children currently have limited access to books prior to entering our schools. Our parents in our community, we are in a low-income community. We have Title I campuses in our community, which means that over half of our students are on low or free and reduced lunch. And so that's showing the financial need in our community. So our students have limited access to books. Our parents are unable to go purchase them or to buy them. And so with that limited access, there is limited reading that is happening with our students. And our students need to have that exposure to literacy and that exposure to books prior to entering school. Reading takes place much earlier than just starting in kindergarten. It starts from birth. Our parents also need opportunities to expose their children to a literature-rich environment. And when you have the literature-rich environment, like a library, students are able to access, or children are able to access books that are of interest, because our goal is not to push students or children who have not started school yet to read certain types of books in their early years. Our goal is to have them have a desire and a hope and a love for a passion for reading. And so that is our goal with that information there. We also need a public library because they may impact attitudes towards reading, which is part of my research that I am working on or that I am going to present today. In addition, we want to set our children up for success in school and in life. And so by having that exposure to a public library where students are able to have access, parents have access, can be informed, can be educated, can be supported in a public library, that also helps us set our students up for success. So I have some information, some data that I would like to share with you, and let's find out, what does research tell us? In a study done with Fisher, Lapp, and Flood about reading improvement, there was a study comparing students for over a year that attended a public library, and then they compared those with students who only attended a school library. And by doing that, they did a survey after completing the experience. 96% of the students attending a public library reported a positive experience. Only 77% of the students attending just the school library reported a positive experience. In addition, Fisher, Lapp, and Flood also looked at their reading levels. And if you look at the public library, 21% of the students that attended the public library were reading at or above grade level by the end of the experience, by the end of the study. But when you compare that to the school library, only 4% of those students were reading at or above grade level. And that could be due to many reasons, but the research, the data does show that you are getting a positive experience, a more positive experience from a public library than a school library. And then we're also looking at a difference between reading at or above grade level from the differences with the public library and the school library. So they're showing an impact there. Summer reading programs can be very effective. And in a study with Roman and Fior, they completed a study. Do public library summer reading programs close the achievement gap? And when you look here, they found out that students attending summer reading programs score higher on assessments than those not participating in the program. In addition, parents indicated a strong feeling of academic readiness, and their teachers even noticed an overall motivation and enjoyment in reading. And by seeing these things, we can see where summer reading programs can be effective and impactful on our students, especially for that summer reading gap that may happen when students go home for the summer and they're not reading because they're not in a school where they're being given library books. They don't have access to them. In our community, when we don't have access to a public library, our students don't have anywhere to get books unless they're buying them or leaving our community to go get a book. In addition, there is an experience that Dolly Parton has created, Dolly Parton Imagination Library. She started a program, and there were 2 studies done with Fung, Sullivan, and Tarter, and then also with Harvey. They had what we call a Likert scale survey, and then they also did some research looking for reading readiness and fluency, for literary structure, and then also for phonics. And so their studies reported that parents noticed more readiness for kindergarten for their children. They also reported that there was a positive impact on families and children because of the quality time that they had reading as a family. And this program is simply sending books to the families. They're sending books to their home and providing them with additional books because their communities do not have a library in their community as well. Some of the research that was done reported that the students in this program had scored higher with nonsense word fluency. And that just means that their phonics, their phonemic awareness, and their ability to decode words is stronger. They scored higher than those who did not participate in this Dolly Parton Imagination program. Parents also reported that there was more exposure to vocabulary and literary structure, which we know can be very helpful in creating readers. It helps students understand what they read later because they often find patterns, and then they can also have a more meaningful impact in discussions as they share their vocabulary and are able to use that vocabulary that they've learned. When we look at research in our schools specifically, the research that I did we looked at kindergarten students and some middle school students who both groups are struggling readers. The research did show an increase in phonemic awareness for kindergarten students. It also showed a positive experience from the students simply with their behaviors. So I don't have any data that shows their positive experience, but I did have several of my middle school students who were working in this program with me expressed a sense of pride. The way that this research worked is that I took a group of struggling kindergarten readers based on data from our kindergarten teachers, and then I paired them with a reading buddy who was a struggling reader in one of my middle school classes. And so we got together once a week. Our middle school students selected books based on discussions they had with their kindergarten buddies. They took those books over to the elementary school and they would read to them. So it simulated a read aloud program or a story time that students could attend at a public library for a story time. So the purpose of this was to see if the experience showed any impact on phonemic awareness for kindergartners, and then if it showed any impact on reading attitude towards for middle school students. And while we did see an increase in phonemic awareness for kindergarten students, there was not enough data to be able to give conclusive results for the middle school students with their attitude. Our study was only 8 weeks, which is really quite limited. And the studies I mentioned previously were over a year, or some were even 4 years in length. However, our school has actually participated and created a summer reading program where volunteers have come in and opened up the school library once a week and invited guest readers and created a program all through volunteers. But that's only during the summer months, and that was only for students who have access to our library, for our students that are already enrolled in school. And then once they came, they were also able to check out books throughout the summer. Even though summer school was closed, we opened the library once a week through volunteers. So with this research, with the research that we've seen from other studies, what can we do? And I would urge you to get involved, to build a partnership with our school and with our community, and let's do some research, because there's some things that we can be doing in our community so that we might even work towards building our own public library so that we can help our students, so that we can impact our students to be stronger readers. We can inform our parents so that they are educated and can know how to help their students. We can give them the resources and the tools to help them help their children be ready for kindergarten or be ready for pre-K. This is such a great tool that we are missing in our community by not having a public library. So I urge you to, like I said, get involved with your schools, get involved with City Council, and let's build a partnership. The teachers and the staff members that have been working towards building our summer reading program if you want to get in touch with some of them, I would encourage you to do that, because there are so many ways to get involved and to help our students and our parents. And so I appreciate and thank you for your time. I know there are ways that our public libraries impact our children that I've shared with you, and I hope that that is some way that we can help our students in the future and help our community by creating and providing a public library for them. Thank you.